retro gaming on the go with a Raspberry Pi, recalbox, and a portable console that we built. Part 2, today, in Mikey's lab. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below to ensure that you stay up to date on all of the projects, maker talks, and awesome content that we put together for you from the lab. Today we are continuing our project from last week, where we built this arcade style with custom arcade controls, portable console for retro gaming with a Raspberry Pi, and now we're doing the recalbox part. I was originally going to do this in one video, but we hit that 30-minute time limit that I have for our videos on the physical build quite easily the last time. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the software set up. In this particular video, we're going to install the image, we're going to boot it up, we're going to do the initial modifications to the configuration to get it connected to the network, and we're going to send some ROMs over from my computer to the Retro Pi, and then we're going to play a game. In subsequent videos, we'll go more in depth into the customizations you can do on the emulators to get better performance, but right now, we're just going to get it running. So the first thing I want to do is extract the SD card from the Raspberry Pi and put it into an adapter. We're going to go over to the PC here. So now when you insert the card into the PC, if it's been in a Raspberry Pi before, or had a Raspberry Pi image burned to it before, a whole bunch of windows are going to pop up. Just click cancel and close. And we're going to open a program called Etcher, which I will show you on the screen any second now once it actually opens. Okay, so I'm going to save you a bunch of time that I lost. The latest version as of the publishing of this video for recalbox does not work with a Raspberry Pi 3B+. I spent 2 hours trying to figure out why it wouldn't boot before I finally decided to break the man code and go ask the internet for help. In seconds I discovered this. I was able to find a version that does work, which is the Christmas beta of recalbox. I'll put a link to it down below. We're using that one because this is a Raspberry Pi 3B+. So we're just going to click on select image. Okay, and we're going to go to recalbox Christmas beta. Okay, it's already selected our SD card. Now you want to be careful with this. You want to make sure that this is the drive that you want to image because it's about to overwrite it. If for some reason your hard drive is selected, you could wind up with a computer that won't boot. And we're going to go ahead and just click flash. It's going to ask for administrative privileges. It needs them because it has to write to the disk. And this will take a couple of minutes to complete. Raspberry Pi web frame, eh? Possibly a new video. Alright, so while that's doing its thing, I'm going to grab a keyboard because we're going to need it to do the initial configuration of the device to attach it to my network here. Okay, and once again, after it's done, Etcher's done, it's going to open a bunch of windows, cancel and close them. We're not going to flash another, so I'm just going to go ahead and close the Etcher program. Pop the SD card out. And put it back into the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so now that we have the SD card inserted into the Raspberry Pi, I do have, if you can see it here, the Raspberry Pi powered by my lab bench power supply and an HDMI cable. Coming over here to a monitor, and I have my keyboard ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the bench power supply, and all we want to do on this initial boot, you can do all the configuration I'm about to show you from the screen here. I'm just going to configure the network so that I can talk to it from my laptop and I can show you better what I'm working with. The first time any OS in a Raspberry Pi boots, it's going to take a little longer than normal. The reason being is because it has to resize the partitions on the SD card to fill the entire SD card. Now with a 64 gig SD card, that can take a little longer than normal. So subsequent boots from this will definitely be faster. I'm going to press F4 to exit recalbox, and I'm going to press Alt F2. And that's going to bring me to a prompt. Okay, the first thing it's asking for is the username and password. which the default, if you haven't changed it for recalbox, is root. And recalbox root. Password. Now we're at a prompt. Now I'm going to go nano. I'm just going to type RE and tab. I'm going to add the O and tab again, which will give me recalbox.conf. I'll be staring at my screen for a second. Now we're just going to scroll down to the networking section. Wi-Fi enabled. We're going to change this to 1. SSID. Uncomment the Wi-Fi key setting. I will blur this in the actual video. And we're just going to press Control X. Say yes to save it. Enter. Tell the Raspberry Pi to reboot. And I'm going to go ahead and close our console up. Making sure that none of the wires are trapped on it. Go. Everything's nice and together. So as you can see, we've booted back into the recalbox interface. I'm going to once again grab my keyboard. You'll notice that none of our controls seem to work. It's because we haven't told recalbox to use GPIO yet. So the first thing I'm going to do again is F4 to exit, F2, or Alt F2 to bring me to the prompt. Put the username and password back in. And then once again, we're going to go nano, and it's recalbox.conf. And at this point, I'm going to scroll down. The first setting that I want to change is I don't want Kodi to be part of this installation. If you do, you can use Kodi. It's a media playing, media center type application. I don't think it plays well with a portable game console. So I'm just going to change that to 0. And that will make Kodi go away. Audio device, I am just going to preemptively set to, auto's fine. HDMI. You can leave this to auto if you want to use headphones with the device. Okay, so the first thing we want to deal with for our build is the GPIO controllers, which we see here. Controllers.gpio.enabled equals 0. We're going to switch that to 1 because we want to enable them. And we're going to say that we have the 2 controllers because some of the buttons are mapped to the secondary controller if we wanted to use it. At this point, I can just go ahead and click Control X and press Y. And hit Enter to rewrite, and then reboot the Raspberry Pi one more time. Okay, so at this point we're not going to need the keyboard anymore. So we'll be able to do everything we want to do via SSH and SCP with the console. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug the keyboard. As the recalbox boots back up, you're going to notice the boot time is much faster now. Okay, so recalbox is there. I don't know why I'm getting the power warnings. I have my power supply set to be able to feed up to 3 amps. It's only asking for 500 milliamp. So at this point I would honestly be comfortable with a 1.5 amp power supply. But what we're going to do now, we're going to press and hold one of the buttons to configure our GPIO. At this point we're going through this menu. We're going to press up, down, left, and right, and we're just going to skip these 2 joystick ones. Button A is here, button B is here, button X is here, button Y is here. We have start, which I'll make the blue one. Select, I'll make the red one. Page up, I'm going to make the 1 hotkey, which won't work because it's technically part of another controller. We're going to go down. L2 is going to be this one, R2 is going to be this one. Our hotkey is going to be that one. And now, our GPIO controllers work. So if we want to go into one of the game consoles here, Recalbox comes with several open source games. Okay, and all we need to do at this point to play one is just choose it, and we should be able to play right away. Forgive me that there's no audio, simply because I don't want a copyright strike. I've never played this game, so this should be interesting. I'm playing on a tiny screen that's off to my side. We're going to jump into the next stages of configuration at this point. I'm going to shut the console down, boot it back up, and we're going to jump over to the PC now, and we're going to do the last couple of stages of configuration. The next part in the software setup itself, I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't have a way to exit the game. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of this project, so we're going to go to the Recalbox's official GitHub, and they have a wiki on here as to how to enable this. First thing we need to do, I'm going to be looking at my screen a fair bit here, is run putty. I came over here and I used a command on the Raspberry Pi called ipaddr to ask what its IP address was. And if we look, 192.168.1.104. So, 192.168.1.104. Okay, and it's going to ask us to confirm the certificate, which we will. I'm going to log in with the same username and password as we had before, which is root. Recalbox root. Okay. And if you read the article here, it gives us one command to enable the start and select shutdown, game quit. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to copy that. Go back into putty, we're going to issue the command. It's going to download the script from the internet and start running it. Now it will start every time you boot too. So now when we press and hold start and select for, I think it's half a second, or maybe 1 second entirely, it will exit the game and go back to the Recalbox emulation screen. Very handy. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to send some ROMs over to this. Now, I don't want to have the huge discussion on the legality of ROMs. The only ROMs I'm going to be sending to this are ones that I own the cartridges for. I just don't want to have to worry about dragging them around. So the one that I'm going to do right off the bat is Super Mario Bros. Okay, so to send ROMs over to this thing, what we're going to use is WinSCP. Okay? So we launch WinSCP. We tell it we're connecting to an SCP site. 192.168.1.104. Username is root. Password is recalbox root. And we connect. We agree to the certificate change. We go up one directory. Go into ROMs. And here are all the systems that we have emulators for. I'm going to do Super Mario Bros. 3, so this is going to be NES. I'm going to go over on my side to active projects. Find Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, the actual NES file. And we're going to copy it over. We're just going to close WinSCP. And now, if we go ahead and we reboot the Raspberry Pi, every time Recalbox boots, it chooses a different intro to play. So, okay, one of the things with this version of Recalbox, because we're having problems with the latest version supporting the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, you do not want to update. In fact, you could probably just turn auto updates off. If you update, it won't boot with the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. If you're doing this on a Raspberry Pi 2 or an original Raspberry Pi 3, according to the documentation, it should still work. Can't guarantee it. Okay, so now that we've got the ROM copied over, I'm rebooting that game exit script in place. I'm rebooting the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so you can see that Super Mario Bros. Is here. I'm not going to play it. I don't want a content strike from Nintendo. They are absolutely crazy about copyright, despite the fact that this game is ancient. I will, however, run one of the other games. and show that exiting the how to exit the game from here. Press start. I don't know what the purpose of the game is, but I'm assuming collect the stars. Alright. So to exit the game, press and hold start and select. And we're back in the menu. And that's all there is to it. So thank you for joining me in the lab today. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you again soon.